Hi, well, can you hear me?
Hare Krishna. I can hear you, but I'm not able to
You
see
can't
you.
see me. Yeah, okay. Let me try and figure this out.
Okay, I see the wall. Ah, there you are.
Okay.
Hare
Hi, well.
Krishna. It's so lovely
Okay.
to see you. Yeah,
Likewise.
you got a good angle there as well. I'm like on top of the screen on this side.
Yeah,
Ah.
I try to avoid, up close.
Well, mine is pretty up close. Let me move
But
it
it's
like that.
nice. It's nice.
I had some kids on play. Oh, it's
I
so
heard,
lovely to
I
see you.
heard.
It's been a while, eh?
Yeah.
I started a second stream, so I don't know if those people are gonna come back. Pranav was there and Ananga was there as well.
Yeah,
But
and I saw some other people.
yeah, Jabu is also
Thank
here.
you.
Hi, Krishna Jabu. And Innovative Art Studio is here as well. And Rukmini is saying she loves the ponies. So So we're really excited to have you on a festival day as well. Today being Deepavali and everything. So I guess
Yeah.
we'll get into it then. Are you keeping well?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know if it's your connection or mine, but you're frozen. I can hear you though, so it should be
Ah,
fine.
okay. You're a little blocky on the screen, but I can hear you. It's a little. I think it's just the connection, but I think we can get through the stream with it. Um, Thank you everybody for joining us today. We'd like to wish whoever's celebrating the Festival of Lights a very happy celebration. It's honoring the day that Lord Ram actually returns from exile with Sita Devi after having been kidnapped by Ravan, and it's also a day of celebration for Bhakti practitioners, in that it's a celebration of how our endeavor and by grace we can actually capture the divine as well and deepen our relationship with Him. So it's a very auspicious day, and we're very happy to have Deva with us today. And she first came in contact with Bhakti in 2016 in Cape Town, and she spent some time at the Sri Sri Radharana temple in Durban doing a variety of services. And she's also very incredibly creative as well, and she'd like to use that creativity in sharing the wisdom of Bhakti. She's also been part of the Bhakti Yoga Society in Durban for some time, and she used to design our posters, and she used to chat with a lot of students, and they still remember you, eh? They still remember you, and they ask after you and everything. So they're very appreciative, and we're also very grateful to have you with us today. And so Deva is going to be reading from Jay Shetty's new book called Think Like a Monk, and her focus is on gratitude. So I'll hand over to you, and I will find my copy to follow with you.
Well, about that, I kind of maybe switch things up a little bit,
Oh,
a
that's
little
okay.
bit. So,
That's okay.
so, um,
Sure.
so the book
Yeah.
is really, really amazing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided because it touches on so many different topics from identity to purpose and service ultimately. And there was just a little bit of um, some things or stories or um, memories that Jay Shetty shared that I really resonated with. So I'm gonna just read a few of the things that I chose. Um, so in the introduction, um, he says he'd only been at the monk. This was actually his first day um, being a monk, and he said that he noticed a child monk. He can't have been more than 10 years old, teaching a group of 5-year-olds. He had a great aura about him, the poise and confidence of an adult. What are you doing? I asked. We just taught their first class ever, he said, and then asked me, what did you learn in your first day of school? I started to learn the alphabet and numbers. What did they learn? The first thing we teach them is how to breathe. Why? I asked. Because the only thing that stays with you from the moment you're born until the moment you die is your breath. All your friends, your family, the country you live in, all of that can change. The one thing that stays with you is your breath. This 10-year-old monk added, when you get stressed, what changes? When you get angry, what changes? We experience every emotion with the change of our breath. When you learn to navigate and manage your breath, you can navigate any situation in life. Already I was being taught the most important lesson, to focus on the root of things, not the leaf of the tree or the symptoms of the problem. And I was learning through direct observation that anybody can be a monk, even if they're only 5 or 10 years old. And that's how he started the book, you know. And then we go on to identity. And he says, however successfully we play our roles, we end up feeling dissatisfied, depressed, unworthy, and unhappy. The I and me, small and vulnerable to begin with, gets distorted. We try to live up to what others think of us, even at the expense of our values. Rarely, if ever, do we consciously, intentionally create our own values. We make life choices using this twice reflected image of who we might be, without really thinking it through. He quotes someone and says that this phenomenon is called the looking glass self. We live in a perception of ourselves, and we've lost our real selves as a result. How can we recognize who we are and what makes us happy when we're chasing this distorted reflection of someone else's dreams? And when you try to live your most authentic life, some of your relationships will be put in jeopardy. Losing them is a risk worth bearing. Finding a way to keep them in your life is a challenge worth taking on. And I think like devotees or people who go to spiritual life, you know, who aren't, their families are from a different tradition like mine, you know, that can be like a big thing also in the beginning sometimes, but not for everyone, of course. The next topic that he looks into is negativity. And I really like this. He said, once I'd spent time in the ashram, I became very sensitive to gossip. I'd gotten used to conversations with primarily positive energy. When I first arrived back in the world, I was awkwardly silent. I didn't want to be the morality police, but I also didn't want to participate. As the Buddha advised, do not give your attention to what others do or fail to do. Give it to what you do or fail to do. I quickly figured out to say things like, oh, I'm not sure. And then he goes on to fear, and he's quoting from, I think, a book, and a brilliant internal guardian, this is fear now, that stands ready to warn you of hazards and guide you through risky situations. Often we notice fear's warning, but ignore its guidance. If we learn how to recognize what fear can teach us about ourselves and what we value, then we can use it as a tool to obtain greater meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in our lives. We can use fear to get to the best of us. And then I really also like this from intentions. So they were walking at what is the Govardhan eco-village, and a senior monk mentions the achievements of some of the monks that they pass. He points at one who can meditate for 8 hours straight. Sure. I know. A few minutes later, he gestures to another. He fasts for 7 days in a row. Rukmini, what do you think? Further along, he points, do you see the man sitting under that tree? He can recite every verse from the scripture.
Wow.
Impressed, I say, I wish I could do that. The monk pauses and turns to look at me. He asks, do you wish you could do that? Or do you wish you could learn to do that? What do you mean? I know by now that some of my favorite lessons come not in the classroom, but in moments like this. He says, think about your motivations. Do you want to memorize all of the scripture because it's an impressive achievement? Or do you want the experience of having studied it? In the first, all you want is the outcome. In the second, you are curious about what you might learn from the process. This was a new concept for me, and it blew my mind. Desiring an outcome had always seemed reasonable to me. The monk was telling me to question why I wanted to do it and what was necessary to reach that outcome. And still on intentions, Martin Luther King Jr. said, those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. When people come to me seeking for guidance, I constantly hear, I wish, I wish, I wish. And then he says, we don't vocalize what it would actually take to get what we want. I wish is code for I don't want to do anything differently. And so many times I can remember saying, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do this. And in between each section, because the book is broken up into 3 parts. So part 1 is let go, the second part is grow, and the third is give. And in between each of those sections, he gives, it's kind of like its own little island, meditation. So he starts off the first island about breathing, the second visualization, and the last one is chanting. So in the breathing meditation, he says that he gives his own experience about meditation in the beginning. And he says, meditation definitely wasn't working the way I had thought it would. It was turning me into a bad person. I was shocked. I was shocked. And to be frank, disappointed to see all the unresolved negativity inside me. Meditation was only showing me ego, anger, lust, pain, things I didn't like about myself. Was this a problem, or was it the point? I asked my teachers if I was doing something wrong. One of them told me that every year the monks meticulously cleaned the Gundicha temple in Puri, checking every corner, and that when they did, they visualized cleaning their hearts. He said that by the time they finished, the temple was already getting dirty again. That, he explained, is the feeling of meditation. It was work, and it was never done. Meditation wasn't making me a bad person. I had to face an equally unappealing reality. In all that stillness and quiet, it was amplifying what was already inside me. In the dark room of my mind, meditation had turned on the lights. In getting you where you want to be, meditation may show you what you don't want to see. Oh,
That's an ouch.
Yeah. And then we go on to part 2, which is grow. And this is part of the purpose section. So he says, there are 2 lies some of us hear when we're growing up. The first is, you'll never amount to anything. The second is, you can be anything you want to be. The truth is, you can't be anything you want. But you can be everything you are. A monk is a traveler, but the journey is inward, bringing us ever closer to our most authentic, confident, powerful self. There's no need to embark on an actual year-in-province type quest to find your passion and purpose, as if it's a treasure buried in some distant land, waiting to be discovered. Your dharma or your purpose is already with you. It's always been with you. It's woven into your being. If we keep our minds open and curious, our dharmas announce themselves. Even so, it can take years of exploration to uncover our dharma. And sometimes I feel like that. I don't know if other people feel like that, but sometimes I really feel like it's taking years. And then we go into routine, which is everyone's favorite thing to do. So in the ashram, we took the same 30-minute walk on the same path at least once a day. Every day the monk asked us to keep our eyes open for something different, something we'd never seen on this walk that we had taken yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. Spotting something new every day on our familiar walk was a reminder to keep our focus on the walk, to see the freshness in every routine, to be aware. Seeing something is not the same as noticing it. Truly noticing what's around us keeps our brains from shifting to autopilot. At the ashram, we were trained to do this on a daily walk. I have taken this walk for hundreds of days now. It's hot, but not unpleasant in my robes. The forest is leafy and cool. The dirt path feels soothing underfoot. Today, a senior monk has asked us to look for a new stone, one that we have never noticed before. I'm slightly disappointed. For the past week or so, we've been asked to look for a new flower every day. And yesterday, I lined up an extra one for today. A tiny blue flower cupping a drop of dew that seemed to wink at me as if it were in on my plan. But no, our leader is somehow onto me and has switched things up. And so the hunt is on. This approach leads to delight in small things. We tend to anticipate the big events of life. Holidays, promotions, birthdays. We put pressure on these events to live up to our expectations. But if we look for small joys, we don't have to wait for them to come up on the calendar. Instead, they await us every day if we take the time to look for them. And I found it. Here, a curious orangey stone that has seemingly appeared out of nowhere since yesterday. I turn it over in my palm, finding the stone isn't the end of our discovery process. We observe it deeply, describe the color, the shape, immerse ourselves in it in order to understand and appreciate it. Then we might describe it again to be sure we've experienced it fully. This isn't an exercise, it's real, a deep experience. I smile before returning it to the edge of the path, half hidden, but there for someone else to find. To walk down the same old path and find a new stone is to open your mind. And I just want to make a point for anyone who hasn't read it yet. I'm just taking things that really resonated with me, but in between, and something that Jay also mentions in the introduction, is that spirituality and I guess in particular Bhakti, but he references so many different spiritual traditions. He says that it can be backed by science, and that it was, like for instance, meditation, the benefits of meditation. You know, monks were doing this so much longer than scientists could even, before they even had the, what do you call it? The stuff that they use, like the devices, the equipment. Before they even had equipment to be able to test the effect of meditation, you know, monks were doing this. And he interweaves that in between each chapter also, giving quotes from different spiritual traditions, maybe Buddhism or Christianity or many other parts. And he also gives scientific evidence, which I really, really appreciate. And then we go on to the mind. So this is now still on Grow, and this is like a interesting topic. So it's raining. Though it's September and monsoon season is over, it's coming down hard. I really need a shower before morning meditation. Please excuse me. When I read this before, I couldn't help but laughing like a lot, and I think it's going to happen again. About 100 of my fellow monks and I arrived here in South India last night after a 2-day train ride from Mumbai. We had the cheapest tickets available, of course, sleeping in close quarters with strangers, and the bathrooms and the bathrooms were so foul that I decided to fast for the entire trip. Remember, it's a 2-day trip. In order to avoid them. We are on a pilgrimage, staying in a warehouse type of building near the seashore. After morning meditation, we'll go straight to classes. So now is my best chance to shower. I ask for directions to the shower, and someone points to a wet, muddy dirt pathway through the low shrubs. It's about 20-minute walk, he says. I look down at my flip-flops. Great. My feet will get even dirtier on the way to the shower and than they are right now. What's the point? Another voice comes into my head. Don't be lazy. You have to get ready for morning meditation. Just go take the shower. I duck my head and start down the path, squelching through the mud. I try not to slip. Every step is unpleasant, not just because of the conditions, but because the first voice in my head keeps discouraging me, saying, see, you are getting muddy on your way to the showers, and you'll get muddy again on the way back. The other voice urges me onward. You're doing the right thing. Honor your commitment. Finally, I reach the showers, a row of white stalls. I open the door to one. I don't know who on this call has been camping, but so he opens the door to one and looks up, and rain is pouring down from the still dark sky. There's no roof. Seriously? I step into the store and he doesn't even bother to turn on the faucet. We bathe in cold water. We bathe in cold water anyway. And that's exactly what the rain is delivering. Standing in the shower, I wonder, what the hell am I doing here? In this miserable excuse for a shower? On that filthy train yesterday? On this trip? Living this life? I could be dry and warm in a nice apartment in London right now, making £50,000 a year. Life could be so much easier. But as I walk back, the other voice returns with some interesting ideas about the value of what I've just accomplished. Going to the shower in the rain wasn't a notable achievement. Funny though, it didn't require physical strength or bravery, but it tested my ability to tolerate external difficulties. It gave me an idea of how much frustration I could handle in one morning. It may not have cleansed or refreshed me, but it did something more valuable. It strengthened my resolve. And then we go on to ego. It isn't just individuals whose egos limit their perspectives. Governments, schools, and organizations, under closed-minded leadership, fail to look beyond what they know and end up constructing an ego-driven culture. Elected officials fight for their for their donors without concern for the world beyond their supporters and those who will come after we have all gone. Textbooks tell history from the perspective of the winners. Organizations get trapped in the business as usual mindsets without responding to changes around them. When Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, offered to sell a 49% stake in the company to Blockbuster in 2000, he was turned down. 10 years later, Blockbuster went bankrupt, and today Netflix is worth at least $100 billion. There's a danger in the words "we've always done it this way," or "I already know that." The Blockbuster Netflix story is well known in the tech world. So when I told it to around 70 marketing directors at a conference, I asked them, how many of you, when I shared this, felt you already knew what I was going to say? About half of them raised their hands, and I told them that that conviction that they already knew what they needed to know was exactly the problem that these companies had. When you presume knowledge, you put up a barrier that nothing can cross and miss out on a potential learning opportunity. What if there was an extra piece of that story? This point itself was the extra piece. You can write off the familiar, or you can use it as a deeper reflection point. Even if you think you already know a story, try to live it as a new experience every time. And it's funny because now I'm experiencing that with my brother. If I do homework with him, he's always like, I know this. But he doesn't know, you know. But I used to do the same, so I just know I'm getting my karma back, you know. Um, we're still on ego, and this I really found interesting. Obviously, it can be taken to an extreme, but anyway. So the two things to remember are the bad we've done to others and the good others have done for us. By focusing on the bad we've done to others, our egos are forced to remember our imperfections and regrets. But don't take it too hectic, you know. I've done that before. It's not healthy. This keeps us grounded. When we remember the good others have done for us, we feel humbled by our need for others and our gratitude for the gifts we have received. The two things that we were told to forget are the good we've done for others and the bad others have done to us. If we fixate on and are impressed by our own good deeds, our egos grow. So we put those deeds aside. And if others treat us badly, we have to let that go too. This doesn't mean we have to be best friends with someone hurtful, but harboring anger and grudges keeps us focused on ourselves instead of taking a broader perspective. Humility comes from accepting where you are without seeing it as a reflection of who you are. Then you can use your imagination to find success. Sarah Blakely wanted to go to law school, but despite taking the exam twice, she didn't pull the law SAT score she wanted. Instead of becoming an attorney, she spent 7 years going door to door selling fax machines. I don't know if anyone still knows what a fax machine looks like. But she never forgot what her father taught her. Every night at their dining room table, her dad would ask her and her brother, not what did you do at school today, but what did you fail at today? I really appreciate this point, you know, this father's intelligence. Failing meant that they were trying and that was more important than the immediate result. When Sarah got an idea to start her own company, she knew the only failure would be if she didn't try. So she took $5,000 of her own money and started the business that just 15 years later would make her a billionaire, which is Spanx. I don't know what Spanx is, but there's that. And now we're on to the second island of meditation, which is visualization. He says, everyone visualizes in daily life. Meditation is an opportunity to make this inclination deliberate and productive. Past or future, big or small, you can use visualization to extract the energy from the situation and bring it into your reality. For example, if you meditate on a place where you feel happy and relaxed, your breath and pulse shift. Your energy changes and you draw that feeling into your reality. Visualization activates the same brain networks as actually doing the task. So now we're on to the last part of the book, which is focused on giving. And it starts with gratitude. And this is the one that I was supposed to focus on, but I couldn't help it. So gratitude is how we transform what Zen master Roshi Joan Halifax calls the mind of poverty. She explains that this mindset has nothing to do with material poverty. When we are caught in the mind of poverty, we focus on what we are lacking. We feel we don't deserve love. We ignore all that we have been given. The conscious practice of gratitude is the way out of the poverty mentality that erodes our gratitude and with it our integrity. Brian Acton exemplifies this conscious practice of gratitude. If you don't know who that is, I guess you'll find out now. I also didn't know. He had worked at Yahoo for 11 years when he applied for a job at Twitter. But even though he was quite good at what he did, he was rejected. When he received the news, he tweeted, "Got denied by Twitter HQ. That's okay. Well, would have been a long commute." He next applied for a job. He next applied for a job at Facebook. Soon after, he tweeted, "Facebook turned me down. It was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people, looking forward to life's next adventure. He didn't hesitate to post his failures on social media and never expressed anything but gratitude for the opportunities. After these setbacks, he ended up working on an app in his personal time. 5 years later, Facebook bought WhatsApp, the app Brian Acton co-founded for $19 billion. The jobs at the companies that rejected Acton would have paid far less than he made off WhatsApp. Instead of fixating on the rejections and adopting a poverty mentality, he just waited gratefully to see what might be in store for him. Don't judge the moment. As soon as you label something as bad, your mind starts to believe it. Instead, be grateful for setbacks. Allow the journey of life to progress at its own pace and in its own roundabout way. The universe may have other plans in store for you. There's a story about a monk who carried water from a well in 2 buckets, one of which had holes in it. He did this every day without repairing the bucket. One day a passerby asked him why he continued to carry the leaky bucket. The monk pointed out that the side of the path where he carried the full bucket was barren, but on the other side of the path where the bucket had leaked, beautiful wildflowers had flourished. My imperfection has brought beauty to those around me, he said. And I really like that part. So now we go back to the rest of Grow, which is now the next heading is relationships. During my first year at the ashram, I became upset, and I approached one of my teachers for advice. I'm upset, I say. I feel like I've given out a lot of love, but I don't feel like it's being returned in kind. I'm loving, caring, and looking out for others, but they don't do the same for me. I don't get it. The monk asks, why are you giving out love? I say because it's who I am. The monk says, so then why expect it back? But also, listen carefully. When you give out any energy, love, hate, anger, kindness, you will always get it back, one way or another. Love is like a circle. Whatever love you give out, it always comes back to you. The problem lies with your expectations. You assume the love you receive will come from the person you gave it to, but it doesn't always come from that person. Similarly, there are people who love you, who don't give the same love in return. He was right. Too often we love people who don't love us, but we fail to return the love of others who do. And now onto the final chapter of the book. It's service. There are approximately 152 million child laborers in the world. Kailash Satyarthi has taken on an enormous amount of pain in his effort to end child labor. In 2016, the Nobel Peace Laureate launched the 100 Million, a campaign to enlist 100 million young people to speak out and act against child labor. In the course of his work, he had been threatened and beaten many times. He says the world is capable to end child labor. We have the technology, we have the resources, we have laws and international treaties. We have everything. The only thing is that we have to feel compassion for others. My struggle is for the globalization of compassion. Like Satyarthi, we are motivated to serve when we think of the whole world as one family. You wouldn't want your child to be enslaved or your parent to be homeless. Why would you want those hardships for anyone else's child or parent? If you stay shut in your world and never see how other people live, you'll never be focused on service. When we bear witness to other people's pain, we feel our shared humanity and are motivated to take action. For heroes like Satyarthi and for monks, and ideally, for all of us, there's no us and them. And we've reached the final island of meditation, which is about chanting. Lord, We've explored how to connect to people around us through gratitude, relationships, and service. As we do this, it is fitting to incorporate sound meditation into our practice, to connect with the energy of the universe. Sound transports us. A song can take us back to a high school memory, make us want to dance, get us fired up. Words themselves have power. They can change how we see the world and how we grow. When we chant, we ourselves are generating this energy. Sound meditations allow us to connect with our souls and the universe through words and song. Yeah. So that was the parts of Jay's book that I really enjoyed.
I see you've thoroughly appreciated this book. There's a variety of themes in there. And you selected like some really nice excerpts from each of these sections. It's definitely a book worth reading, eh?
Sorry, you're breaking up.
I was saying that that you appreciated so many different aspects from the different sections of the book.
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yeah, it's just the connection is not so great. So you're frozen again, but I can hear you, but it kind of stops in between.
Yeah. Rukmini was mentioning though that she was able to see and hear us both, so I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I liked, well, I mean, everything that you read had a lot of substance to it, and if we reflect on it, we can actually, take some of it into our personal lives. But one thing that stood out for me was that earlier in the beginning of the session, the section on meditation, and how in that silence, or stilling the mind, but of course in Bhakti, it's with sound vibration, of course, of sacred names, but it allows us that opportunity of actually being honest with ourselves. And then we encounter all of these shortcomings that we have to overcome. And sometimes just, being honest with ourselves is painful, because we know that there's so many things that are lacking in us, and we sort of see like he mentioned in that section with the train. We are not the train with the verses. You saw that monk knowing all these different verses and things.
Yeah.
It's like we see like an ideal of what a spiritual practice should manifest into, and we feel that we should become that. But part of any spiritual practice, and most especially like with Bhakti, it's actually the journey. It's the journey of actually becoming that person. It's not just basically the end result, So I really like those 2 points of the meditation, and also of not focusing on trying to become someone, of just being who you are, and allowing yourself to become that. So I really like those points.
I'm glad you did.
Okay, if you had to choose like a favorite section from everything that you read.
I guess everything, all of the points resonate in one way or another, but I guess ultimately I really appreciated the gratitude. I guess that's why I thought that I would speak on that, because it really improves all those other beginning sections that he spoke about. And like one of the parts in gratitude, one of the scientists said that if they could bottle gratitude, it would be like the best drug ever, with emotional benefits and, so many things. So yeah, I guess the gratitude section would really be be it for me. But it's not easy. I find myself sometimes more than others, being grateful consciously. And then this is a really nice reminder to be grateful for the small things. So I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that description of that section of, them taking the daily walk and trying to observe
Yeah.
something and actually
Yeah.
appreciate. And I think it's a valuable sort of description, because so much of the time we within an experience, right? But we block ourselves from appreciating so much of details that can actually enhance our
Yeah.
experience of life, that we just overlook. And I think everybody does that. I definitely do
Yeah.
that. And though I was reflecting, I was reflecting on this point of gratitude from when we'd spoken the other day, and I was thinking that these days there's a lot of meditation schools and a lot of
Mm.
yoga practices that are including gratitude. And it's like it does allow one to tap into a spiritual aspect, but at the same time, I think that um, gratitude just in of itself, independent of recognizing divinity, the divine and our eternal nature, it would be incomplete. So
Yeah.
when we look at everything from a holistic perspective, and gratitude comes in a holistic perspective, then I think it's more nourishing. It has more depth and more meaning, because if we just recognize things without seeing their primary function, or
Mm.
like the essence, the
The
dharma
source.
of
Yeah.
yeah, and connecting it with the source. Like I was just hearing a Bhagavatam verse, like the very first verse I was listening to a class, that and it's describing how everything is coming from that source. So when we
Yeah.
actually make that connection to the divine, to the supreme, in that gratitude meditation, then it becomes spiritualized, and then we
Yeah.
actually make spiritual advancement in the course of
Yeah.
that gratitude. So I also feel that that's an essential component of actually
Yeah.
gratitude meditations.
Definitely. But it's like I was saying to Rukmini last night after the Zoom call, say she posted on her WhatsApp status, this holy month is about remembering Krishna. And then I was like, yeah, and sometimes I just want to forget him. So that is also there for sometimes for some of us. Um, but yeah, it's definitely very important because, and I think this is also something that Jay mentions in the book. Also in terms of meditation, because like you said, there are many meditation schools and yoga practices that advocate maybe just 5 minutes of meditation a day. And someone actually came to him and said, I've been meditating for 5 minutes a day for like several months, but it's not working. And he's like, if you spend time with someone that you love or that you're interested with for 5 minutes a day for several months, will you even know them? So yeah, quality, and there has to be that acknowledgement, the acknowledgement of the divine, or else, yeah, like you said, um, it's superficial. It only takes us that far. It only takes us that far, and we can't. We'll just dry up. So that's a good point. Yeah, and I've been dry for a long time, so I know. Desert of my heart.
But I mean, I think I was thinking the other day about I was thinking about my own practice and things like that. And I remember one devotee said to me, I said, I feel like I'm not actually like making progress. Like I feel like I'm not going anywhere. And then the devotee said to me, he was like, no, maybe it seems that way, but like when you're in another environment, you'd actually
Mm,
start to see how all of those things actually did contribute to your life, to your practice, and how actually has become embedded in your consciousness. So I think sometimes actually, not we do actually have a lot of things that are actually within us, that we've actually
Yeah.
invested in. And given the opportunity, it would actually come out. But we just
Yeah.
sometimes we're not in that space, we're not in that environment where we can actually
Yeah.
see, oh, okay, yeah, I do actually. But I mean, like, so we are actually making progress. We just sometimes don't
Yeah.
see it. It's sort of like when a
Yeah.
child is growing,
Yeah.
to the child, they don't see that they're growing, but the mother can
Yeah.
see. Like, you were this big, now you're like a giant, or whatever the case may be. So I
Yeah.
think spiritual progress is definitely there, even when we may feel that we try, right? Like life is just dry. But I think like our spiritual master always says, he says, like, you tell yourself that today you're going to give up your spiritual practice, whatever it is, whether it's reading or meditation or something, and that in itself will make you want to do it. Like, because you can't give it up. Like,
Yeah.
even if sometimes you encountering a challenge within your practice, whether it's your mind or routine or whatever the case is, because you've experienced something that has given you a superior experience of life through
Yeah.
spiritual practice, like, you're not gonna just internally, you're not just gonna give it up. Like,
Yeah.
internally it's all still there. So
Yeah.
yeah, my ramblings.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. It's not so easy to give up. It's hard, and that's, I guess, also because also when Jay left the temple after 3 years being there, then he also, because he had thought that this was his life, this was, the path that he was going to take, and then, his spiritual teacher and the people, his mentors, they told him, you'll do better maybe outside, you'll be able to give more in a different way. And he was dealing with so many things, and he got to the point where, sorry, I lost my train of thought. There's someone moving outside, so I did. But yeah, he had to reflect, he had to introspect, and he said, being back in his old home with his friends and family from before, it like when he was talking about negativity, and how he started, his go-to thing would be, oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Similarly, similarly, he said, it took some readjustment, um, but again, I lost my thought.
It's okay.
Anyway, um, yeah, he said it wasn't easy, because he had been taught in the temple, or in the ashram life, um, how to meditate and how to be peaceful and all of these things. But now the test was to actually do it outside, in a different setting, and I really appreciated that, So that, yeah, yeah, that was nice.
I like that, and I like that he's honest in, like, he's so honest in that,
Yes, yes,
because so much of the time it's sort of like we feel like, we should fit a certain sort of image in a spiritual practice, and that if we don't
yeah,
actually stick up to that, then it's sort of like we're not a practitioner. But I think also
yeah,
his life itself is also representative of the fact that we can still carry so much of substance and spirituality and
yeah,
still have our experience in a different sort of environment. So
yeah,
it's not necessarily that, that if you're practicing in a monastery or the ashram life as he describes it, that makes him just a practitioner, and that
mm,
now he's not a practitioner. So I like that. I like that because it also
yeah,
shows how versatile the practice of bhakti actually is as
yes,
well. is that you can carry it with you within your life, and undoubtedly it's also equipped him for so many
Yeah,
encounters in life, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's. I really loved his honesty in the book. That was very refreshing, because sometimes, just like you said with identity, um, we're stuck in a perception of ourselves, and giving like a certain face, as a spiritual practitioner, or you know, whatever. But it's so refreshing for a practitioner to read it, but also, I guess, also encouraging for someone who is new to bhakti or spirituality in general. Um, and also, uh, yeah, most of the things that I read were like memories that he had, because it was like in italics, so it was,
mm,
um, a lot of it was lessons, personal lessons that his mentors, or realizations that he had, which I really, really, really appreciated, because there was like a honesty and a depth in that, you know. Of course, everything had that, but I really like,
no, what you say. But
yeah,
I mean, I guess it's very appreciable, his honesty, because um, there's no facade, you know. There's no
yeah,
like pretense. It's just being honest with where he was at, and it doesn't in
yeah,
any way diminish his spirituality, like just
yeah,
changing his environment or anything like that. He's still the same person. And
yeah,
I think just in society and internally from our own our own pressure that we put on ourselves, you know, we feel like we do actually have to fit into like a little box, but it's okay
yeah,
if you're not in the box. You can make your own
yeah.
box. You can design your box how you want it to be. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be like, you know, like everybody else, because the
Yeah,
principles are still there. It's still the same.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a
yeah.
beautiful book, eh? So,
It really is.
and
Yeah,
you had a lot of hey,
I really enjoyed reading it. It was really, really.
yeah. You and Sarabi, you both read your books fully, and you had like a variety of things that you actually read. So I really liked it. I liked Sarabi's session, and I really liked yours as well, because
Yeah,
like there's so many things that you guys reflected on, like, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. I remember when Surabi was sharing some of the things that she had just read, and I was just, it was, it was so cutting, you know,
yeah,
because I was just thinking about how far I have to come, but it was also really, because the way that he writes is also really encouraging in a sense. It's like, okay, so this is something that you can work towards. So yeah, I yeah, it's really nice.
I like that so much. Thank you so much for spending time with us and reading
No,
what you
thank you,
read.
thank you.
We had a lot of people commenting earlier on, and I know Abir has been, I don't know if he's still online right now, but he's been following these reading sessions, and he was sending all kinds of hearts and bubbles and things earlier. So he was appreciating it as well. Surabi also. Um, I'm experiencing that with the Damodar Leela. When she wrote that, you were reading about how um, if you allow yourself, you can see more within an experience. It's not just that, you know, you
Yeah,
feel that you know everything. There's still more to
yeah.
it. So she was commenting there. She also says that she loves this book, and that she's really happy to see you as well. And
Abir says he's still here.
oh, you're still here. Sophia, thank you so much for joining us and being with us. Um, yeah, we had quite a.
Yeah.
Rukmini was mentioning how you used to write on everybody's snack boxes and personalize them at the BYS programs. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, thank you so much, Dee, for
Thank
being with
you.
us and sharing your
It was so nice
appreciations
seeing
of.
you.
It was really nice. Um, So I guess we've got a few minutes before Instagram actually knocks us out. We've literally got a few minutes. So until next time, we hope to have you again for another session. And you're a bit frozen right now. But please talk about gratitude as your attitude. Abir is commenting. Dia, are you still there? Would you like to comment on Abir? Please talk about gratitude as your attitude.
I find that difficult because often it's like I was saying to Satya now, you know, sometimes I need reminders, because it's not like a default for me to be always grateful for every little thing that happens. You know, my mind is like in the book, you know, it's described as a monkey, and yeah, it's there. So, but as an attitude, I think it's like Jay said, you know, trying to, but it can't be artificial. And like when I was reading the book, I was just reflecting on about the people in in the home, you know, my mom and my brother, and all the things that the small things that they do for me, you know, and so really trying to be specific. And this is also something that he mentions in the book. When we're grateful, it becomes more meaningful to the person that we're being grateful to, and for ourselves when we're very specific about how they've impacted us. And that's something that I can resonate with. So I think that's the most important thing. If we really want to be grateful, then to be specific about what someone has done for us, you know. And I think in that way it penetrates a lot deeper. I hope that's okay.
I'm just checking comments. Yeah, I think that's quite something. I think also like I don't think gratitude is something that we always have with us. I think it's also something that we should allow ourselves to develop gradually, because it's not it's something that we have to nurture, because we have a certain mindset and a certain approach to life, and gratitude is also linked to becoming aware and becoming conscious of our environment, of people, of relationships, of situations, of everything, and I think it's also just developing an awareness as well, and I think that comes with the spiritual practice. So at the same time, I think we should take it easy on ourselves as well when we're developing appreciation. But Abir was appreciating your answer, Deva.
Yeah, I saw the thumbs up was both.
Give the best answer. So with that, I think we've come to the end of the session, and thank you so much, Deva, for spending time with us on this auspicious day of Deepavali. And Abir as well, thank you for always following and liking and sharing all of our posts. We're happy to have you following us, and we're glad that you get some inspiration as well. And with that, we'll see you. We'll have our next session next week. Sorry, my throat. Next week, Saturday. So tomorrow we won't have our Bhakti journey session in the evening, because there's festivity preparation for Govardhan Puja on that's happening on Monday. So you can check that out also on ISKCON Durban, the Facebook page. You can check out the details there, the live stream and all of that. And so we will see you next week, Saturday. So Hare Krishna, everyone, and thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna.